aqui quem fala é o Vitor Revez e dessa vez eu vou apresentar para vocês o clube chamado United of Manchester, um clube lá da 7ª divisão da Inglaterra que tem relação sim direta com o Manchester United, afinal os nomes são bem similares, Manchester United, United of Manchester, os dois têm uma relação bem próxima e vocês vão entender. O presidente do clube, o Adrian, me concedeu uma entrevista sensacional, falou um pouco do clube, me mostrou o estádio também, ele vai fazer um tour pra gente do estádio e eu também entrevistei o técnico do time, o Neil Reynolds. Espero que vocês gostem desse episódio porque tá bem completinho, então curtam esse episódio e roda a vinheta.
Então bora lá aprender mais sobre o Football Club United of Manchester. Em 2005, o clube foi fundado, mas como o nome sugere, foi criado em função do todo-poderoso time inglês Manchester United. Naquele ano mesmo, em 2005, o Manchester foi vendido para um empresário estadunidense chamado Malcolm Glazer, o que revoltou parte da torcida do clube. Esses torcedores ficaram tão revoltados que eles decidiram então abrir um novo clube, que a princípio se chamaria Football Club United. Só que a Associação Inglesa de Futebol vetou esse nome, porque a palavra United, que significa em português unidos, é usado em diversos clubes britânicos. É um nome comum demais, então eles vetaram esse nome. 4 outros nomes foram pensados, só que o que acabou ganhando mesmo foi o Football Club United of Manchester. O uniforme principal do time é igualzinho ao uniforme do Manchester United, camisa vermelha, calção branco e meia preta. O apelido do time é Red Rebels, ou, em português, os Rebeldes Vermelhos, fazendo uma paródia com o apelido do Manchester United, que é Red Devils, ou seja, os Diabos Vermelhos em português. Eu não vou mentir que eu gostei do trocadilho. O clube foi aceito profissionalmente pela Liga Inglesa na temporada de 2006-2007. Eles, porém, poderiam ter estreado na temporada de 2005-2006 se eles não tivessem perdido o tempo de se inscreverem. Acabaram perdendo prazo e aí estrearam só em 2006-2007. Conquistou 2 acessos seguidos e atualmente ele se encontra na divisão superior Northern Premier League, o que equivale à 7ª divisão lá da Inglaterra. Até 2014, ele não tinha um estádio próprio. Ele utilizava o estádio do Bury, que se chamava Guy Lane. E finalmente, em 2015, com a ajuda da torcida que estava juntando dinheiro para realizar este sonho, o United of Manchester inaugurou o Broadhurst Park, seu estádio com capacidade para mais ou menos 4.700 pessoas. Espero que você tenha gostado desse panorama geral sobre a história do United of Manchester, então fiquem agora com a incrível entrevista do Adrian.
Hi everyone, my name's Adrian. I'm the chair of the board at FC United Manchester. I'm here on a very wet, grey Manchester Saturday afternoon to tell you a few words about our football club and our story. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So FC United was formed in 2005 following the hostile takeover of Manchester United by the American Malcolm Glazer. A group of supporters had got together to try and stop the takeover, but ultimately that was unsuccessful. An idea had been formed in one of the fanzines that was distributed around Old Trafford on a match day called Red Issue, that if the takeover went ahead, perhaps the supporters could form a new club, a new Manchester United in the lower leagues for supporters who felt they could not give their money to Malcolm Glazer. The popular slogan at the time was "Not a penny." And in May 2005, when he took over the club, those supporters from the Red Issue met in a curry house in Manchester, and the idea was formed about FC United. In the following 2 months, there were supporter meetings in various locations in Manchester, and a lot of hard work by a small group of individuals meant that within 2 months the club was formed, applied for entry into the English football pyramid, and was accepted into the Northwest Counties, which is the 10th level of English football. So the takeover of Manchester United by Malcolm Glazer was the catalyst which led to several thousand supporters walking away, but it was not the only reason. a lot of supporters had been disillusioned with the modern game, with the Premiership brand. Everything from the price of admission. I mean, football had always been a working class sport, but it developed into a sport that the average person in the street couldn't afford to go and watch on a regular basis, couldn't afford to take their children. It was also a sport that was led now by the sponsorship deals with major brands and with the TV companies, television companies that ensured that matches were scheduled as an inconvenience to supporters. You could travel maybe to Southampton on a Monday night when there were no trains back to Manchester. Supporters were no longer the main consideration for the league. It was all about the money, and for a lot of people this was a step too far, and they looked at a different way of doing things. So in the summer of 2005, a couple of thousand Manchester United fans swapped away trips to the San Siro to Madrid for trips to Lancashire market towns as we entered the northwest counties. It was a new experience for all of us. We didn't know the players in our team, we didn't know the manager. A young manager had just retired from playing non-league football called Carl Marginson. But it was fun again. We could stand with our friends on the terraces, we could drink beers watching the game, we could make a decision about whether we were going on the day of the game. We didn't have to plan months in advance. In very short amounts of time, FC United romped through the divisions in the early years with 3 straight promotions, taking us from the northwest counties into the Northern Premier League, where life got a little bit harder. But everywhere we went, we broke attendance records, and our fans enjoyed the adventure. We started to establish ourselves as a football team. We learned who our players were. We started to bond with our players. The club was set up with the principle that it would be one member, one vote, a cooperative of supporters running the club, with an elected board, elected to serve 2-year terms by the supporters, with all the major decisions taken by those supporters who were the members. So everything at this club, all the major decisions are voted on by the members. Myself, as chair of the board, I'm elected by the members. The price of admission to the games, the price of season tickets, how our kits should look, whether or not we change our kits each season, and if we do, the design of the kits. All the big decisions at the club are taken by the membership. Although success was coming on the pitch, what really mattered for the supporters was to build our own ground. We ground shared for 9 years with Bury, a league team, and it was a fantastic ground, but it wasn't our ground and it wasn't in Manchester. It was just outside the suburbs of Manchester. So the supporters started raising money, and we started talking to Manchester City Council about the opportunity to build our own home here in Manchester. And the supporters raised £3 million. £2 million of which was a very innovative community share schemes, where no matter how much money you put into the share scheme, you still only owned one share in FC United of Manchester. We kept to our ideals of one member, one vote cooperative. Eventually, in 2015, we were able to build our own ground in North Manchester in a place called Mostrar, 10 minutes on the tram from the centre of Manchester. And we were able to move into our ground at the end of the season in May 2015, having won the Northern Premier League. We were champions, we were going up to the National North, the 6th level of English football, and into our new home. And for our first game, we welcomed the historic Portuguese club Benfica, who came to Manchester to play us on the anniversary of the European Cup Manchester United match in 1968. Like ours, the name of the ground was chosen by the supporters. This is the ground we built at the time. This was the first ground in the UK to be built by a club owned by its own supporters. As you can see, we have a 3G training pitch with some grass pitches beyond that, which are used by our junior partners, Mostrar Juniors, a children's team that share our facility. And here is our ground. It holds 4,700. It's a mixture of seating and terracing. We've been here, we're now into our 6th year here at this ground. entrance to the stadium. You can see the club badge, which again was chosen by the supporters back in 2005. 3 different designs were chosen and the supporters decided which one they wanted. And the badge takes in the symbol of Manchester with the ship canal and the boat. So here's our ground. As I said earlier, it holds 4,700. There's been a game on it today. Unfortunately, not FC United, as due to the national lockdown at our level, football's ended for now. But one of the teams in the levels above has got a problem with their pitch, so they've used ours. An interesting story about our terrace here, the SMRE terrace, is that although this ground's only built in 2015, this is one of the oldest terraces in the country. It's over 100 years old. It used to be at Northwich, Victoria, but unfortunately the club folded, and we bought the terrace off the receiver. So we recycled the whole terrace and brought it bit by bit to Manchester and put it in our new stadium. So it's one of the newest stadiums in the country and one of the oldest terraces. As you can see there, something that's important to FC United: making friends, not millionaires. And obviously FC United against racism. And here I am on the terrace with some of the flags. I mean, it's one thing for FC United that's very important is our supporters' flags. As you can see, all the way along the terrace. All in the red, white, black colours that originated with Manchester United, also the colours of FC United. There we get another view from the terrace, our stadium, and the main stand. Here we have the main bar, which unfortunately we can't use at the moment due to the lockdown restrictions. You can see some of the Manchester beers that we serve in our bar. Some of the history of the club there with the shirts. From the bar, you have a great view across the pitch. The bar goes all the way down. On a match day, this would be heaving with supporters, but obviously not for the moment. Here's another view of the outside of our stadium. So as FC United opened its new ground in North Manchester in Moston in May 2015 against the great Benfica, it seemed like the world was our oyster. We were on the start of something big. Sure enough, for our first season at the 6th level of English football at the National League North, we had record season ticket sales, record crowds, over 3,000 for every match. But the reality was that this was the start of a period of turmoil for the club as we struggled to adapt to a new world for us, a new world where we had large bills to pay. The budget for the ground had been 5 million, but we ended up spending just under 7 million. And we took on loans and debts to service those last couple of millions that we needed for the ground, which meant that the club had reached an interesting crossroads ideologically. A club that had, for many people, been born against the overt commercialism of modern football, now needed to raise money in a way it had never done before to service the debt on the ground. We had to raise sponsorship, we had to sell the facility. And it was an interesting time for the supporters as they wrestled with their conscience and decided whether that was what they wanted. We were new in the National North, but for the first time in our existence, we were no longer the big boys. The National League North had some very old, famous clubs that had been in the Football League for many, many years, but had fallen on hard times. Clubs like York City, like Darlington, like Chester, like Stockport County, who 10 years before had been at the second level of English football. So it started a period where the membership often criticised each other, turned on each other, wondered where we were going. The club struggled on the football front, it struggled to service its debt, and it led in the summer of 2016 to the entire club board stepping down from the club, and an EGM electing a new board of 11 to take the club to the forward. In December 2016, the new board had to write to the supporters, explaining the club was in a very difficult financial position, and in fact there was a danger to the club's very survival. We needed to raise in the region of 100,000, otherwise the club was at risk. And in October 2017, after 12 years as our only ever manager, Carl Marginson stepped down from the club, and Tom Greaves, one of the senior players, took over. We were struggling. It was a relegation battle every year in the National North. We didn't have the budget, the infrastructure to compete at that level. We stayed up for 3 years, but in August of 2018, Tom Greaves stepped down himself at the start of the season, and we brought in a new manager, a young manager called Neil Reynolds from Bamber Bridge, who were in the division below us. We wanted a manager who knew the leagues below, who was young, who was hungry, because we knew that realistically the club who was bottom of the league was in great danger of getting relegated. And we wanted a manager that was prepared to restructure the club. The football department was up for that sort of a challenge.
I would like you to start introducing yourself to everyone and talking about what you do at the club.
My name's Neil Reynolds. I'm the current first team manager of FC United of Manchester.
Have you always wanted to be a football manager?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I have. It's something that I've always wanted to do. Every football club I played for, I was a captain. I was good with communication. I continued that in my school career. You know, I'm a head teacher now at a high school, as well as being the football manager of FC United. So I build successful teams. But in terms of football, yeah, I really enjoy the pressure. I enjoy the galvanising squads and finding a new talent, winning games of football, winning trophies. And, you know, I never expected in my wildest dreams that I'd become manager of, you know, FC United of Manchester. But it's happened. And now it spurs you on and makes you want to go higher and higher and higher, you know, with FC, because, you know, if you haven't seen, or if people haven't seen, you know, the club is geared up for Football League. You know, the fan base and the facilities we have at the club are second to none.
Yeah, and when did you start running in United of Manchester?
So it was in 2019. We started the season at Bamber Bridge, and got to about October, and then the phone had rang. I think we won. I was manager of Bamber Bridge. We won 5-0 away from home, and the club was contacted to ask if I could take over. Now, at the time, 2018. The club was in a really poor position, both in the league and financially. You know, it was a mess behind the scenes, and ironically, everybody told me not to touch the job. The club was in a real mess. There was a lot of in-house fighting. There wasn't a great deal of togetherness. There was significant amounts of money being spent that shouldn't have been spent. But I think when I walked into the stadium, I took my little lad Jack with me, who was probably 8 or 9 at the time. You know, you walk up the steps and you see the turf, and you see the Munich clock in the corner, and you see the flags, and you know, there was no way that I was ever going to say no to that job despite the trouble. So I came in, and I remember speaking to the board and said, listen, if you let me run this like I run my school, we'll be successful. However, we may have to go backwards to come forwards again. So I took over in the end of October, beginning of November. I think we're bottom of the league at the time, and we went on a bit of a good run. But I inherited a squad that all the players were mainly on contract, so I had to work with what I had. It was only going to be the end of the season where I could really bring in my own players, and there was a difficult time in the club because the dressing room wasn't. The dressing room was divided. It wasn't a harmonious group of players. I think they were there for the wrong reasons, quite a lot of them. I think they were financially driven. And I remember we came to play Nuneaton towards the end of the season in 2019. And we lost 4-0 at home. And I remember gathering the players in the halfway line and I said, the fans never turn on you. However, on this particular day, they could sense that something wasn't right. And I got them together in the huddle and I said, you need to go and face the fans now. This will be one of the last times you get the opportunity to see them because none of you will be here next season. And that was kind of what I was dealing with. We got relegated. But on that day, I picked up the microphone and spoke to the FC United fans and kind of let them into some of the troubles that I was facing behind the scenes, which wasn't like me because I was a private person. But I felt that as owners, they needed to know exactly what was happening. At that point, I felt that was a turning point in the club. The club really got behind us. We got relegated. I got rid of the whole playing squad, bar one. It was my captain, Michael Potts, who I brought with me. And then we rebuilt. We rebuilt the whole squad. And we started the season. And, fortunately, the pandemic cut us short. But we were doing really well. We had Tunde, who scored 37 goals. We finished second in the league. We won the Manchester Cup. And the season was cut short. We didn't get promotion. Then we started again this season. And again, it was cut short. But we had a really good season. We reached the first round of the FA Cup. We were broadcast live across how many countries? I think 2 million people watched the game. So yeah, that's kind of the journey. And now you look at it, it's here to the future.
Okay, and what is it like for you to lead a team with history and important as the FC United?
It's absolutely incredible. We are our own team. However, we can never get away from the fact that we were born out of a revolt. We were born out of what Malcolm Glazier did to Manchester United. And we were born with a group of Manchester United fans that didn't believe in the politics that sat around ticket prices and other issues that sat behind it. And they decided, if people haven't read the book, a group of fans met in a curry house one night and put this proposal about setting up their own football team. Quickly, it rapidly, escalated, and all these people got behind it, and there was revolts at Old Trafford, and these few thousand people said, "No, we're going to do this," and they got their way. They got their way, and I remember starting in 2005. I actually played against them a couple of times, and this fan base travelled with them far and wide. They didn't have their own ground. They played at Bury, and they played a few games at Stalybridge, a few games at Curzon Ashton, but they had this dream of having their own stadium. And all I did as a player, as a manager, you're really envious to look at this fan base and this, these fans of what's George Best and Dennis Law and Eric Cantona and Ryan Giggs and David Beckham, Wayne Rooney, and all of a sudden, they're now watching, my team, or players that have worn the shirt beforehand, and they're always so proud of the players that turn out onto the pitch. So for me to get the opportunity to manage the stature of FC United, the size of the club, the facilities that we have, the history that we have, I've been there two and a half years, and it probably still hasn't sunk in that I'm manager of FC United. I walk into the stadium, I drive into the stadium on match day, and the fans are there waiting for you. You walk out at 3:00 to the noise that is, you'd think there was 10, 20,000 people in the stadium, not 2,000 or 3,000. And it's great. And what we've done now at FC United, we've brought a togetherness where, the fans trust the players trust the fans, the board works with the fans, the board works with the club. We've got a great general manager in Paul Smith. Now there's a real togetherness about the club. And like I said, for me, I've got a lot of repaying to do because they give me an opportunity that I never thought I would get. And for me, I just want to repay that loyalty and bring more success to the football club.
Okay. And what do you like the most about the FC United?
3 o'clock Saturday afternoon, walking out of Broadhurst Park. You never ever, unless you've done it, you've never experienced noise like it. And to see, I'll call them fans, but the more owners, the passion on everybody's face when the red shirts walk out at 3 o'clock. You know, I've never, well, you know, they were at Old Trafford in front of 60,000, but I still think that this noise is greater than that, because you've got a group of people that are joyous and desperately enjoy watching, you know, the Reds walk out at 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. There's no better feeling, you know, for me than kind of getting ready on a Saturday morning, putting my suit on, driving with my little boy and my girl to FC United, getting out of the car and walking into that stadium. 3 o'clock can't come quick enough. And, you know, if you've won or if you've lost, 4:45 is a special occasion. But if you've won, trust me, they let you know, and, you know, they're brilliant, and you don't want to get off the pitch. So it has to be 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon.
Sure enough, in May of 2019, we were relegated for the first and only time in our history, from the 6th level of English football back down to the 7th level. And in that summer, Neil set about restructuring the team. Only a handful of players remained, and a new team would be created to start life back at the 7th level in the Northern Premier League. And we started the season badly. We lost our first 3 games. At the end of August, we were bottom of the league, and people were starting to question where we go from there. But the new team blended with playing some really good, exciting football. We went on an incredible run. It took us right up to 2nd in the league, and in a really strong position to get promoted back at the first attempt. Something that only 3 clubs had ever done in the 20-year history of the National North. When unfortunately, in March 2020, the coronavirus pandemic hit us hard, and we had to stop our season, and a short time later it was decided that the season would be null and void, would be banished from the record books, and that we would remain again in the Northern Premier League and start again this year. And this year we did. We started again, and we had a very a strong start to the season. We were mid-table in the league, but we didn't play as many games as many of the opponents, because we had a fantastic run in the FA Cup. And I'm sure over there in Brazil you would have heard of the FA Cup in England. It's hugely historic, and for only the 3rd time in our history we got to the first round proper, because teams at our level, we have to start many rounds before. There's qualifying rounds for the FA Cup, but when you get to the first round, that's when league teams come in, the EFL teams, and the television coverage. And we drew Doncaster Rovers, who were probably the best team, the most informed team in League One, 4 divisions above us, and we were chosen to be the game that would be shown live to the nation on the BBC. And it was a very strange experience, because of the lockdown restrictions coming in around that time. We were allowed to play the game, but without crowds, and we had to play in an empty stadium, although we had over 1 million people watching on television, and we dressed the stadium up as best we could with flags and scarves. But it was one of the biggest days in the club's history, and it played out to an empty stadium, which will forever be a regret. Even though the coverage was fantastic, and we lost 5-1 to one of the form teams in the EFL at the time, and there was no disgrace in that, and we did well. But the season was suspended and never started again. And as I talk to you today, we wait to hear confirmation about whether we will restart. It looks highly unlikely. It looks like for the 2nd year in a row our season will be cancelled and voided and never have taken place. But who knows, and that's the situation we're in now.
People often ask me, what does it mean to be an FC United supporter? What does FC stand for? And if you come into my house, as you enter my house, one of the first things that you see is this certificate, which hangs pride of place in my living room to show that I'm a founder member of FC United of Manchester. And I think football fans, they often go to work on a Monday, and if they've won, they say, we won at the weekend, or we lost at the weekend. But what does we mean? Their club is often, these days in England, owned by a nation state, such as Manchester City, or by a foreign owner, such as Manchester United. The clubs have very little involvement with their supporters, other than taking their money. Supporters are customers. Supporters have very little say in the way their club are run. But FC United, it's different. when an FC United supporter goes to work on a Monday and says we won, the we is real because they own that club. They make the decisions of that club. And I think we are evident that there is another way of doing things that can work. It's often seen in Germany, for example, that fans can run football clubs. But in this country, it's almost an alien concept. And the other thing that I love about FC United is if you look at our shirts, and here is a shirt from the first season. The shirts have changed over the years, but one thing's remained the same, and that's the lack of sponsorship on the shirt. Now, we do have sponsors, FC United isn't against having partners with companies. We look to try wherever possible to have local Manchester ethical partners. But one thing we don't have is the name of a company on our shirt. We feel that as a club, as opposed the overt commercialism in modern football, our shirt should be a symbol of not taking it too far. And that's something that's remained enshrined in the club for the whole of our history, something that the supporters voted to put into our rules. So FC United, we're set up in our rules as a community benefit society, a non-profit organisation. So what that means is we've always got to look to prioritise what we do in the community as part of a club. And I suppose we've reached a stage in our existence, our short existence, only since 2005, remember. Well, we've gone through several stages. We had the stage where we wanted to establish a football club. We had the stage where we wanted to build a football ground. Then we had a stage where we struggled to adapt to owning and running a football club and all that's entailed. And we're now at the next crossroads in our history. We've solved a lot of our financial issues. We're on a relatively strong footing now. We've got an exciting young team of players ready to get us promoted back up to the National North, and hopefully this time be competitive in that league. Obviously, coronavirus depending. But we're at the stage where we have to decide where do we go from here. And what the board are doing now, we've just started an exercise in looking to create a vision for the next 5-10 years about where we take the football club. And it's not a vision that's going to be decided by myself or the other board members. It's a vision that will be decided by the members, the supporters, the owners of this football club. And over the next 2 or 3 months, we're going to have an exercising in asking their views. What do you want to prioritise? Is the football the most important thing that we do? Do we need to find more money to raise the football budget, to be able to get promoted beyond the National North to the National League proper, and then into the EFL, into the Football League? Is that the most important thing we do? Or are there other things that we do? Do we need to prioritise our debt repayment? Do we need to prioritise building on the stadium and improving the facility? How do we continue to do our good work in the community? At the moment, for example, during the pandemic, we've been running a food hub, which is servicing at least, in the region of 100 families and households in the North Manchester area that we supply food to 2 days a week. It's been a fantastic initiative that was started when the stadium was shut down in March last year, and it had a danger of becoming a white elephant. There was going to be no football. We were in lockdown. Our staff had been furloughed, which means the government was paying their salaries, which is what happened to a lot of people in the UK when we went into lockdown. And the staff turned around and said, no, we don't want to stay at home. We want to volunteer. And the idea for a food bank was formed and has been working in the area for a year now. So we need to look at where we go from here. We're confident that whereas 4 years ago we weren't sure that FC could survive, we're now confident FC will survive, will flourish. I think the most important thing about FC United is that we will be as successful, we will go as far as our membership wants us to go. It's them that will make the decisions about what the priorities are, not the owners, or not a couple of owners like at a normal football club, but the whole ownership, the 2,800, 3,000 members. It'll be their decision where the club goes. It'll be their decision what the priorities are. And I think for me, that's an exciting new stage that we are entering, where we look to the future. For the first time in quite a long time, we're confident that we'll be okay, but where do we want to go as a football club? And it's the fans that will decide, and I think that's the way it should be. So I hope you've enjoyed having an oversight, a little look into our life. We welcome supporters, members from Brazil. If you look on our website, you'll find some details about where you can join the club and become an owner of this thing of ours. Beyond that, please do keep a look at us on social media. We have a very strong following on Twitter, on Facebook. We stream our matches live. You can watch us from Brazil, and we look forward to maybe seeing you one day at Broadhurst Park, watching us in person. Thank you very much.
Bom, espero que você tenha gostado desse vídeo. Se você gostou, já deixa o joinha, porque dá um trabalho que vocês não têm noção legendar tudo isso que eu legendei. Eu legendo todos os vídeos certinhos para vocês entenderem palavra por palavra do que os meus entrevistados falam. Então, dá aquele joinha, se inscreve aqui no canal. Então, valeu, falou e até mais.